Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Elena, codename is Hariet, and today I will be doing a Valentine's look, if I had a Valentine's. So this is a full makeup tutorial and I'm starting off with primer. So I have already done this look before. I did it yesterday when I was meeting a friend in a friendly date, I suppose. And by a friendly date, I mean just I met up with a friend of mine and we just talked about our lives, work, studies, etc. So not really a date with a potential partner, just a friend date. So yeah. As you can probably tell by my intro, I am single. I don't have no Valentine, very single, but for me that is not a problem. Like, I honestly prefer being single because I have a lot of things going on with my studies at university, so I do not exactly have the time for that type of commitment. I do have time for my friends because I prioritize them above anyone else. And for example, if I was supposed to be dating someone right now, I would not give that person any time or thoughts because, like, I've dated a lot of people and those that I have dated have great experience and good to see from other perspective and people with another lifestyle and such, but no thank you. I don't know what to say. Yeah, I'm good. So the eyeshadow I will be using is from Odin's Eye. It's their first Elva palette, and I will be using the shade Morning Glory and Cherry Blossom, that both are pink. Or Morning Glory is a red mauve shade or red burgundy, and the other is a pink. But I will be starting off with a eyeshadow palette from this Norwegian brand called Makeup Mecca, and this is their astrology planner diary eyeshadow palette that was a limited edition back in 2020, and this was the first product and palette that I have ever bought from them. So I will be using a shade called Taurus, and it's just like a regular brown shadow. So the formula of this palette is sort of like a Korean or Japanese type of formula in form of eyeshadows. It's not super pigmented. As you can see, there's like barely any difference from this side to the other side. So it's not that very pigmented, at least in this palette. I believe they have improved their formula in their newer eyeshadow palettes, but the older ones are not so pigmented as I would prefer them to be. And I am applying this brown shadow sort of to outline where I want the red burgundy color from Odin's palette to be. So the next color I will be using is this shade called Cancer, and it's a mauvey light purple shade. And like I said, with the brown shade, I'm also doing this just to outline where I want the red burgundy shadow from Odin's Eye to be placed. So now I will be using the red shade called glory. And I will start with applying it on my outer crease of my eyes, right here, and then I will go and blend it all over my eyes, because I want this to be a red eyeshadow look and not a brown one. It is for the Valentines, so it has to be red in a way, I suppose. So I remember my first date I had in my life, like in general, and I was in high school. I think I was 16 years old, and in my high school, there's like the building, there's a part which is the high school, and then there's another part of the same building that is for people who like want to study some of the courses that you study in high school but had failed the class, or want to improve their grade to get into university and such. So my high school was a part of that type of teaching. I don't know what to call it. So part was one part was my high school, and the other part was for further studies. So like I said, when I was 16 years old, I believe this was either my first year or my second year, and I remember there was this guy sitting in the stairways and reading a book or something, and I just found him attractive, and one of my friends back then said that she knew I don't know if it was his brother or his cousin, but somehow we came in contact through mutual friends or family. So we started talking on Snapchat, and it was good conversations. It was like a first conversation I had with a guy. The thing about him was that since he studied in that other type or the other parts of my high school building, people who study there are either adults or they have already graduated high school. And the point is what I'm trying to get to is that, he was 21 years old and I was 16. I had just started high school. So he was finished with high school since 2-3 years back. He was studying to improve his grades so he could study at university, and I had just started that high school phase of life, if you know what I'm getting at. But I remember my friends being super supportive. They were like, "Oh, Elena, you should really talk to him. You should like invite him out, tell him what he's gonna do this summer. You should go on several dates with him." And I mean, for me, I was like crushing on this guy, so I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do that." But now that when I think back about it, it's like, why did he agree? Like, he's older. Imagine you're 21 and some 16-year-old boy or girl comes to you and is like, "I have a crush on you. Do you want to date me?" Like, so in my mind, if a 16-year-old did that, like ask that to me, I would be like, "No, you're a baby. Why would I date you?" But I guess he didn't think like that. But I don't know, in a way our society is very accepting towards older guys dating younger girls, which I don't really understand why it is like that. I mean, I understand it's like a societal norm, but if you really think about it, there's such a power imbalance between age gap groups, especially young girls or young boys who are 16-year-olds and dating someone that is some years older. Why is that okay? That is my question. Why is that allowed? Why is that okay? And why do we as a society accept it? Yeah. Taking a little bit of cherry blossom and with a finger, because why bother with a brush? And then I'm just gonna put it like on the outer corner of my crease. So moving on, I will be taking a loose powder from a Brazilian brand, and I don't even know if this exists anymore, but since it's loose, I will be using a wet brush to apply the powder. And that would be going on my inner crease. To put an end to that story, we went on this date and it was so awkward. It was my first date ever in my life, so I was so awkward. I felt really uncomfortable, not because of him, but like of the whole situation, because it was so new and I didn't know what to do, like what to say and so, like how do I look? Do I smell good? You know, sort of like that. What I remember from the date was that we didn't really say anything new. Like everything we talked about was things we already talked about in the chat. And I became very, very bored because of that. I'm very easily bored. So just talking about stuff we have already talked about in the chat and not adding something new to the conversation, that just really made me lose interest. And then the sort of like new stuff he was saying, he asked if I watch any like TV shows, and at the time I was a big lover of Game of Thrones. So we were talking about the show, and then I remember he saying that he have never met a girl who likes Game of Thrones and that sort of type of medieval fantasy shows. I don't remember how I looked at him, but I just remember being like, ew, how dare you? And I remember he said another type of comment. He asked me, like, I didn't have my driver license because you have to be 18 to get your driver license. But I think I was kind of starting to learn how to drive a car in general, and I believe I told him that. And then he said, oh, when you do get your driver license, what kind of car do you want to get? And I was like, oh, maybe like an, I don't know, an orange one or a black one. And he said, like, I just remember this, he said how, oh, my dad told me this, that when you ask a woman what kind of car she would like, she would always say, oh, a red or a blue one or another color, and never like, oh, I want a Volvo or I want a Volkswagen, I don't know. That apparently women only talk about the color of the car and not like the brand, but that we only talk about stuff like makeup and celebrity gossip. And that comment just like it made me so mad. But anyways, that comment made me like really look him in another light, and I just felt like he was very misogynistic, and well, no, thank you. Moving on, I will be using this loose powder from Annabelle Minerals, and I bought it in the wrong shade. This one is a bit too, not orange, but too yellow for my skin tone. In general, I have been on several dates, but I have never been on like a date on Valentines. But I kind of low-key dislike Valentines, not just because like, oh, I'm single, that is why I dislike Valentines. It's more of like the whole concept of it. I'm gonna do another video talking about it, but yeah, the whole concept of Valentine's, I just question it in the big total, or like in the big picture. You know, all those really goofy, hopeless, romantic, love at first sight, romantic movies or TV shows you all have probably seen at least once or twice in your life. So I have been on a blind date before, and it just literally, I think it has been one of my best days I have ever been in my life. the guy though, he in question is really weird now that I kind of know him better. Uh, but the first date, he kind of behaved, if we could put it in that way, he behaved himself. And like I said, it was a blind date. We had a mutual friend who put us up together. And I remember I was so nervous before the date. Like, I have never been that nervous before in my life before going to a date, but I was so nervous. And I remember I was at my friend's house, and she offered me to eat like a sandwich before the date so I won't be too hungry. So I was trying to eat the sandwich, but like I couldn't swallow it because my body just like shut down. It was like I was like I think I was having a mini panic attack because I was so nervous, like I said. So then I went on to meet him, and he was really tall, but he was tall. He was kind of handsome, but he was 1 year younger than me. And I mean, 1 year is not that big of a difference, but it is, like I said, when I asked you guys the question if you would be okay dating a 16-year-old when you're 21. It just, like, anyone who is like younger than me, in form of dating, it's like you a baby. And I didn't know he was 1 year younger than me before I met him. So if I knew, I don't think I would have agreed to the date, or maybe I would have. I have changed my mindset since then. But yeah. So first we went to a cafe and got to know each other a bit more. We're both very social. Both are extroverts, so that like the talking situation wasn't a problem. I mean, nothing during that night was a problem. The whole date was fantastic. It's just that person that is not that fantastic. After we had done talking at the cafe, we did potentially say that we would go for dinner, and we did go for dinner. And I remember him just like looking at me like, do you wanna go for dinner? I was like, yeah, like this is going great, yeah, sure. You know, let's see where the night leads us to. This date was 3 years ago. It was in 2020. So looking back at it from my standpoint now, I can already point out the flaws that I've seen in him from just like the first date. But back then I was like, oh, okay, it's a nice dude, and this date has been nice. Now I'm just taking this Makeup Revolution face palette and taking the brown shade as a bronze. One flaw that I can see from like thinking back to that date was how he treated the waiter. So he was sort of like a very Karen move towards the waiter, and I remember the waiter looking at him like, you're weird. And I just thought, this guy is weird. I just want to hide. Like, I don't know this person. We're just on a blind date and I have never met in my life. I felt like, even though it wasn't me doing the whole thing, I felt embarrassed for like him, me, and then the waiter. Like the whole situation, I was very uncomfortable. It just felt very rude. We are nearing the end of this video. I will be applying blush, this mauve shade right here. It was a really nice date. Like, I'm not complaining, it was a really nice date. But like the thing with the waiter and stuff like that, and then I could go into like a whole other story about this guy, because he's younger than me, and he's special. Let's end it there. He's very, very special. Cabaret. I put it some down here, the name. And I'll just outline my lips. Also, the lipstick I will be using is Maybelline 130 Spicy Sangria, and I believe the collection is the Shine Brilliant one, because the packaging is shiny. Yeah. So here's the Valentine's look that I created. I did apply some highlighter to my brow bone and in the corner of my eyes. The rest was shown on camera, but I'm really happy how this look turned out. So that is it for this Valentine's makeup tutorial. If you guys enjoyed having this little story time with me, I will gladly do more of them. I had really fun playing around with makeup and just like talking in front of the camera. If you would like to see more of that, please subscribe, like this video, give me a comment down below, and hit the notification button so you won't be missing out on the next one. Until then, I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye!